So, the 5 principles that we've been exploring the last couple of weeks are ancient spiritual laws, and they're here to help us at least have a better understanding of how life works. They're pretty simple, and yet, as in all things spiritual, they're not always easy to live by. And I wanted to share with you the kids' version of this that maybe helps you remember these in a more simplistic way. But here's how we teach it to our kids. We say, God within, through my thinking and feeling, prays and walks. That's the 5 principles. And they're not just to be understood, they're to be lived. So the question becomes, well, how do you know? How do you know if you're living them? How do you know if they're working in your life? And the most simple answer is that you are experiencing a greater measure of peace and love in your life. It's pretty simple. Perhaps a deep sense of purpose gets to accompany those things. Every day, you're likely to encounter opportunities to put these principles into practice. And the easiest way to do that is whenever you find yourself facing some kind of challenge, is to simply ask, how can I apply principle here? How can I take these understandings and put them to work in this particular time and space? And when you work the principles, you discover that they actually have the capacity to transform your life, at least your experience of your life. So here's what often happens next. I've seen this play out time and time again. You get these principles and you just commit to working them, and you do experience greater peace, greater joy, and now you want that for everybody in your life. And you start telling them about these principles. And you start bugging them about, I need you to come to church or go to this class. And we hope that our enthusiasm, that our experience will give them the same benefit. If only our spouse or our boss or our children or our friends would get on this spiritual path too, boy, life would be even better. What we've come to discover, at least I have, and I know some other Unity teachers have, is what we really need is one more spiritual principle to help us navigate this relationship stuff. We can do pretty good on our own, but we live in this world where we intersect with a lot of other people and experiences. You ready for it? Here's what it is. It's pretty simple. It says, mind your own business. That's the 6th principle. So several years ago, I ran across an article. This was not my unique idea. And it was Unity Minister Ellen Davenport, who is also the author of the 5 principles, which if you're new on this path, it's a book I highly recommend. And she had written this article about it. And this just seemed like, I set it aside and I said, one of these days it's going to be the perfect time to talk about this particular principle. As Ellen points out, this idea was not original to her either. She quotes Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of Religious Science, now Centers for Spiritual Living, one of our sister New Thought theologies. And he wrote in 1920, he said, if we could add to the commandments, the greatest would be, mind your own business. Jesus said it much more tactfully. He said it this way. He said, seek first the kingdom of heaven, and I'm paraphrasing here, and the rest will work itself out. And so Ellen suggests that there are 3 primary ways where we don't mind our own business, where we disturb our ability to be in that deep space of peace and expanded energy of love. The first is when we try and control other people. Any of you ever tried to control someone else? Yes, sometimes it's necessary that we do our best with our young children, but most of us forget that the people around us, even our children when they reach that adulthood stage, aren't something that is ours to control. Every time that I wish another person was different, every time that I think someone's not doing the right thing, or I swirl in the question of why can't they simply stop doing fill in the blank, or judging somebody else's parenting styles. Oh, those poor children were minding someone else's business. Too often, we allow ourselves to be steeped in worry and to get angry or to do our darndest best to try and fix them, especially when it's those family members that we love so much, that we care about. And she goes on to say that according to the dictionary, here's the definition of care. I want you to think about this because we often say, well, I really care. So caring in its definition is 1, suffering of mind or grief. 2, a disquieted state of mixed uncertainty, apprehension, and responsibility. And 3, painstaking or watchful attention. That's how the dictionary describes it. We often fail to distinguish that love is not the same as caring. Love doesn't pull your energy down. That's a first clue. If you're drained or if you're upset thinking about somebody else's problems, then you're likely caring about their business. Here's mistake number 2. It's one, and I know especially those of the female persuasion, but we all have some extent of it, worrying about what other people will think. We just don't mind other people's business, we allow them to mind ours. Anytime we hesitate to make a decision or a change in our life, to follow, especially when it's that inner guidance that we're not quite so seated in yet, but we're feeling that urge that we're being called in a certain direction, and we hesitate because we're not sure what other people are going to think about us stepping in that direction, we are letting them mind our business. So mind our own business is really a two-way street. It is letting others live their lives while also living our own, regardless of what the people around us tell us we should or shouldn't be doing. The third mistake is trying to save the world. You know, we see it every day. We are inundated with it. People are starving, children are abused, climate change is wreaking havoc on our planet Earth, terrorists are bombing places. We must do something. We have this desire to want to do something. And after all, doesn't our fifth principle tell us that we should take action? But the challenge is that when our desire to take action arises up out of a place of fear or anger or judgment, we're simply adding our energy to the problem. We are simply adding that own swirl of upset to it. And when we're trying to fix from that place, it rarely works. Think about this. Think about the 1920s prohibition. It rose up out of women seeing the destructive nature of alcohol in their communities, with their husbands, with their friends' husbands, with men. You know, it was causing all sorts of disruption in the family unit, in being supported, in being a happy way in which to raise children. And so they all got together, and in their righteous indignation, they lobbied and got a law passed that prohibited the consumption of alcohol. Did it really change anything? It just pushed it underground, only for it to be repealed later. We don't get to control other people, even when we think it's for their own best interest. So how do we make the world better and mind our own business? How do we express love for others without trying to interfere with their journey? How do we honor another's path, even when, from our perspective, it looks like they're heading for a train wreck? It's not easy. Just like all of these other principles, it takes a certain awareness and it takes a lot of practice. One of the best ways that I've discovered is that we have to sort of reframe what's unfolding in our life. We have to shift our perspective from how it looks to us through our human eyes to how it might look through our spiritual eyes, through God's eyes. And one of probably the most effective way to reframe it is others have their own path in their lifetime as I have mine. Their paths might look unnecessarily hard in my perspective, and if I love them, I want to make it easier for them. But apparently, this is how they've chosen, they've arranged to carry out their soul lessons. There's so much more going on in this human journey. We're here to grow and to evolve as souls. This is just the venue in which we get to have that play out. Here's the truth. It's none of my business whether someone lives or dies if their sole choice is to go. Serious illness. Who knows why that is at work in their lives, or we can have that same introspection in ours. I have had people say to me that cancer diagnosis, that heart attack, whatever that challenge was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it was a catalyst that helped me shift in a way that I might not have otherwise. It was a transformative experience, as challenging as it was. Who knows if experiencing addiction or some other challenge in life may be the experience that they chose for their spiritual journey, for their own growth. Another place I think that we have to at least be aware of and then sometimes shift is it's none of my business who someone chooses to love and how they relate to each other. This is a hard one when your children are choosing a spouse. Whether we like them or don't like them, whether we like their friends or don't like, it's not ours, at least once they get to adulthood. And that's my little caveat here. For those of you who have young children, yes, you are responsible for keeping them safe. You're responsible for guiding and supporting them the very best you can until they reach that age. And in our laws, that age is 18, but I have to tell you, it happens a lot earlier. So be prepared. When they step into those teenage years, you can do your best to keep those boundaries in place, but they're already off and running on their soul's journey. My growth comes in trying to honor another's path, even when it's difficult for them or it makes my life more difficult and uncomfortable. I would love to save them from the pain, and it would give me a lot less worry too. But I have to allow that if I'm going to have any measure of peace, if I'm going to be able to extend that unconditional love out into the world. So one of the questions is, well, when is something my business? Certainly, for our young children, it becomes your business. And it's also our business when it affects me personally. Now, what they're doing isn't my business, but how it affects me and how I react and respond to that is my business. And even then, the most that I can do is state my needs and my preferences and set my own boundaries, and then make choices about whether I choose to stay in relationship with certain individuals or not. Here's the third one that we have to change our perspective on. I can't create in others' experiences, no matter how much I love them. Think about this for a minute. My thoughts have unlimited creative power in my own life. That's the third principle. It's through the activity of my thinking and feeling that I get to experience the world. and yet they have no creative power in somebody else's life. We can add our energy and our support to them as we did in our prayer time, but I cannot pray another into longer life just because I want that if it's not their soul's choice. I can't affirm them into greater abundance or greater health if it's not part of their consciousness, if it's not part of their desire or their soul's path. So here's how I'm going to suggest to you we might use these truth principles when it comes to others. We know how to use them when it comes to ourselves, but when it comes to others, how can we put these principles into place that allow us to be in that space where we're minding our business and supporting them in their choices as they mind them? So, principle number one, we can affirm that God is in every situation, including in them. We can remember that other people are truly divine beings. God is in them too, as we have to remember it for ourselves. We can know that they are attracting or creating what they need to meet their deepest intentions for soul's growth, even if that wouldn't have been the way we would have chosen to done it. We can pray for their highest good without knowing what that form may take, letting go of what that looks like. And then we can take action, but only when we're guided to. Otherwise, we get to mind our own business. So we're going to go into a time of meditation and maybe see if we can't begin to practice this with some person or some situation in our life where we realize we have been all up in their business, and now we want to find a way to be in relationship with that from a different perspective. So if you'll join with me, I always encourage people to perhaps close their eyes or just put your gaze somewhere so that you are single-focused in an inward way. And that breath helps us bring our minds and our hearts and our awareness into this present moment where we can let go of all of the stuff that this day has brought up until this point or what it might bring later, and we can just be in this moment. Aware and remembering that even when we're not aware of that breath, which is true the vast majority of our day, it's always flowing in and out of us. And in this same way, even when our awareness is not focused on the presence of that divine light and love in us in this moment, it's always there. And as you breathe, imagine that thinking part of you, that part that we call the brain in our physical bodies, begins to just slowly sink down until it gently comes to rest in the area of your heart, where we can commingle our thoughts as they are bathed in that energy of love. This is the seed of wisdom in our being. And into this sacred space, I invite you to bring somebody to mind and heart that you might be experiencing a challenge with, that any of these ways in which you might be thinking about or interacting with them have caused you worry and upset and fear or anger. Just bring them into this space. And as you're connecting with them, whether you see them or feel their presence or can hear them in your inner ear, affirm that God is in them and in this situation right now. See if you can't get a felt sense of that presence of love. that higher vibration of spirit present in this moment. And in that space, you remember that no matter what the appearance has been, no matter what their human journey has looked like, they are a divine, creative being of God. That energy of God that is present in everything, through everything, as everything, is also in them. And as you take another deep breath, see if you can't know that they are creating what they need right now to meet, to travel their soul's journey. That even in the darkest and most difficult times, there is that possibility that they can step into and claim who they are in a greater way, a divine child of God. We pray for their highest good, letting go of what that looks like, of how we would like to see that take shape and unfold. We just add our energy to that God energy that says there's good even in the midst of this. And we pause for just a moment and listen. Listen through that lens of wisdom. If there is some way that we could support them while honoring their path. If guidance arises, we commit to following through on that. And if not, we surrender it into the evolving flow of life, knowing that no matter what unfolds, we will always be that creative, beloved energy of God. We return to that space at the end of this human journey. And we're grateful for all that is learned and discovered, and for the way our souls are now equipped to love deeper and broader and higher. For that is our purpose here in this human experience. And as you take another deep breath, just begin to bring your attention back to this space, the awareness of your body. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. So the best way that we live these principles is to tend to our own souls, our own spiritual growth as our primary focus. We honor the path of others, the creators of their experiences, and know that there are reasons and lessons that we probably may not ever be aware of. We live out what we call here this desire to be free of judgment and full of love. So we have to let go. You know, it's a beautiful statement, and like all things, it's not always easy to live into. And we surrender to that divine creative power in each person. We let them follow their own inner guidance. Each of them has a higher self that knows best, just as you have. That's how we live it. That's how we work with them every day and practice them. That's how we best love other people. And it is ultimately what brings us to our own space of greater peace and happiness. And we get to practice it every day for a lifetime, or perhaps many lifetimes. So the good news is that we've been given the power to create our own kingdom. Imagine billions of little kingdoms all around the world. And some at this moment we might feel like we're at war with. Some we've created some treaties of respect and trust. Others we've agreed to sort of co-create, co-mingle our kingdoms together and create out of that. Our kingdoms can live in harmony when we remember that in our kingdom, there's only one subject. There's only one that we have dominion over, and that's ourself. May deeper peace and richer love and abiding joy fill our world as a result. Well, it is our opportunity now to share of our financial good with this community. It is through the gifts and the tithes that you offer to us that we are able to do all that we do in order to have this space for people to come, for people to discover who they truly are, and for people to have the tools and the practices that really allow them to transform their lives, and then hopefully take that out into the wider world and make a difference wherever they are. Let us take what we offer today into our hands, or if we are given through those electronic waves, just feel that energy in this space as we hold it and bless it. Together, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Father, Mother God. And so as we go into this day, into this week, being conscious and committed to minding our own business, we go, knowing our prayer for protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.